After several hearings and much talk about regulation from the SEC, crypto platforms and exchanges have been waiting for the government to make its moves and provide more clarity on the rules of engagement. My colleague David Weston spoke with SEC Chair Gary Gensler in an exclusive interview earlier. Take a listen.
We do have a broad agenda, and crypto is part of that agenda, but it's an agenda really to make the capital markets work better for the investing public and for the companies on the other side, to drive more efficiency in these markets. As to your question about crypto, the agency is really just looking out for investors, and many of these tokens, not trying to prejudge anyone, but many of these tokens have the attributes of securities. They're raising money from the public, and the public is anticipating profits based upon the efforts of others. And so we've brought a number of actions. We're trying to work with the various crypto platforms, the exchanges, the lending platforms to come in, get registered, find where we can to adjust our rule set to get the investor protection for the public.
As you say, you've encouraged the exchanges to come in and get registered. At the same time, a lot of them have not, as far as I can tell. At what point do you have to force them?
Well, no, it's because, look, if you're a platform and you have 75 or 100 or sometimes 5,000 tokens on that platform, probabilities are that a number of them, and maybe many of them, are what's called a security. And it's Congress painted with a broad brush. And it comes down to this: are you raising money from the public, and the public's anticipating profits based on the efforts of others? My predecessor, Chair Clayton, the agency that I'm honored to chair at this point in time, is going to try to pursue investor protection. And if that means bringing greater enforcement actions, we'll do that. But it would be better to have these platforms come in, work with us, and come under the securities laws.
Do you think you've done everything you can under the statutes as they exist now? Do you need legislation in order to really go after and really get registration from those exchanges?
I think that the laws are pretty clear as laid out in the 1930s. And we have an ability to work with these exchanges using various authorities to basically tailor some of these, because these crypto exchanges and lending platforms have operated differently than the traditional New York Stock Exchange. But would it be helpful to work with Congress on some things? I've said this in the past around some details around transfer agents and others. Yes. But unless Congress says otherwise, we have to ensure there's investor protection in this space. And we're going to work with the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, where there's some that are commodity tokens, because while many of these are securities, some may be under their remit, and we work together as two federal agencies.
SEC Chair Gary Gensler there. To digest it all, it is time for our cryptocurrent segment with Sonali Basak. Sonali, what do you make of Gensler's remarks?
Yeah,
and the daunting task of figuring out how to regulate crypto?
Well, that's exactly right, this daunting task here. On one hand, from a Wall Street perspective, you have existing financial firms very worried that the SEC is not going to be able to get a handle on the Wild West that's been created out of all of these crypto products. On the other hand, from the crypto perspective, you have them watching very closely, looking at what the SEC is saying is an attribute. An attribute is the word he keeps using of an existing security, so that they can use enforcement actions or add on rules to new products that look like older financial products, Emily. So how the chairman starts to mold those existing rules into this new industry will be of critical importance to how they start to enforce and create new laws.
So I want to talk about, in other news, this $320 million that was stolen from the Wormhole crypto project. It was restored. But in the absence of kind of formal regulation, how is the industry trying to self-correct these big issues?
Yeah, this was so interesting because hacking is something we're not talking about when we talk about regulation necessarily in itself. So the Wormhole project was so interesting because with 120,000 wrapped Ether being taken, we saw Jump Crypto really step in here and make customers whole once again. And you see them finally self-correcting something, and it might be expensive, but it is something that they're able to do themselves.